Showtime! The Capital G show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here, talking budget decks in this video because with a brand new ban list and a new format looming on the horizon, the secondary market almost always likes to go on the flux, and players can find it especially difficult to play the game at a high level without having to sell the shirts on their back. But don't worry, I've got you guys covered once again. I've decided to put together a comprehensive list of the best budget decks that you can build while still keeping it fairly on the cheap. So as per usual, I've decided to limit our budget to $150. That includes the entire main and extra deck, and since we actually can't predict the future price of cards that are going to be released in sets that we don't have, I've decided to completely omit cards from Breaker of Shadows, so that set will not be taken into consideration. Without further ado, this is the top 10 budget decks for the November 9th 2015 format, the Yu-Gi-Oh hierarchy. Number 10, Melodious. Alright, so we're going to kick off this list with a choice that is almost certainly heart over mind. Everybody knows that I have a profound love for this archetype, and I won't omit the fact that Fantasias have their obvious flaws. The biggest one being, of course, that the monsters need to be special summoned to get their full potential. However, with the release of Elder Entity Norton, this means that you can go in the Fairy Cheer Girl a lot more consistently, and that card backed with an Honest can be really powerful. I mean, drawing cards is never bad in Yu-Gi-Oh! You combine this with the Aria plus Bloom Diva play, I mean, that pretty much still does wreck everything under the sun. Number 9, Kaiju, probably the most improved deck from last formats. Kaiju are actually shockingly legit right now. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the new Kaiju monsters are really good. Not only do they need less counters to activate their effects, but their effects to me just seem a lot more practical. I mean, Radion is offensively a one-card Wrecking Crew, and Sea Turtle provides the deck with something I thought it would never have, potential Lockdown. I think it actually makes the deck a legitimate contender. Number 8, Burning Abyss. Down but not out. That should be the battle cry of Burning Abyss's format, and I think that it's completely true. Did BA get hit hard? Absolutely, but Crane could easily serve as the replacement for some of the deck's lost power, and especially during the late game as a one-card Xyz maker. My biggest concern with Burning Abyss will be getting efficiently through the early game, where chances of opening with a graph are extremely low if you don't have Torghast from the Underworld. Number 7, Great Alls. Okay, so I kind of struggle with this one because I think that Great Alls have the biggest chance of exceeding its spots, but potential has failed many decks in the past, so I wanted to stay somewhat conservative. Great Alls have a lot of things going for them. They've got an excellent boss monster that's really easy to summon and offers you a ton of destruction. They've got the ability to consistently snatch steal their opponent's monsters, and they've got a continuous Rhoda, but they don't have a lot of depth when it comes to monsters. They just really don't have a lot of support right now, and I could easily see the deck struggling in a new format where targeting just isn't going to be that good. You know, decks like Cosmos and Magic Specters, they're really just not about that. Number 6, Spirit Beast. Okay, so I will say that I think I and many others overreacted to the limitation of Ultimate Cannahawk. Does it wreck you if your one copy of Cannahawk dies? Of course, but does it stop you from going Infernity, Wombo Combo, Super Special, Sexy, Awesome Summon all over your opponent's face with the turn 1 looping? Absolutely not. You can still rack up multiple copies of Steeds and Ambush and generally make enough advantage to just win the duel outright based off your turn 1 summoning. And I also think that the fact that Steeds doesn't target, like, that's going to be really huge in the upcoming format. Number 5, Mass Heroes. Next up is a deck that took a minor hit with reinforcements of the army going to 1, but in all honesty, outside of searching Goblinberg, I don't really think that it matters, like, at all. I mean, Rhoda is easily swapped with Emergency Call, and I think that you pretty much get the same results. Also, you got to look at the fact that Dark Law plus a Mirror Force is pretty much going to wreck every deck. It doesn't matter what new decks are coming out. It just seems to be that that combination is still really potent against most of the meta. Number 4, Infernoids. Towards the end of the July format, this deck shined as a real contender after its shocking undefeated run through YCS Dallas. I think that there are a couple of reasons for why the deck has seen so much success and will continue to. First off, the deck really has all forms of on-field removal, whether it be banishing cards, putting monsters back in your opponent's hands, popping back row, popping monsters. It has pretty much the full gauntlet. The second is obviously the exploitation of reasoning, which I think that the deck does better than any deck in the game. not only can it get you a monster, but then, you know, your graveyard serves as a secondary resource and kind of as like a weird toolbox in ways. I think the boost that the deck also got from the Psyframe Synchros has been pretty significant, as you can kind of use Omega as a semi-reusable burial from a different dimension. I don't think this deck is going anywhere for a while. Number 3, Prophecy. So, okay, I'm either going to be really wrong on this one or way ahead of the curve, because I really believe in Prophecy this format. The difference that Fate makes at 3 is immense, and you know what? The card has never been bad. In fact, Prophecy's biggest problem has always been, well, actually it's 2 problems. 1, life when you don't get Blue Boy's effect off turn 1, and then 2, just finding other good complementary monsters to run in the deck. Yeah, sure, during the Spellbook, you know, Dragon Ruler format, you could throw in Jowgen and Kaiju and all that good stuff, but those cards aren't super practical right now, and this is where the Clown engine comes in. The clowns make life for Prophecy so much easier, as it gives you much needed beaters. This of course makes Spellbook of Power a lot more consistent. It gives the decks access to rank 4s. It gives the deck searchability, which increases the speed of the deck, which of course is increased by Spellbook of or the Grand Tower. And I think that the deck overall is just going to be fine-tuned and just become a lot better, and in a format where targeting just may not be that great, like Spellbook of Fate is just really going to be absurdly good. Number 2, Satellar Knights. Going back to Old Faithful on this pick, despite Rhoda's hit, I don't really think that it's going to do a lot. Very similar to Heroes. Most Satellar Knight players will simply max out on cards like Upstart Goblin, maybe Pod Duality, to increase the consistency that you lost with the reinforcements of the armor hit. Furthermore, Satellar Knights might just have the secret weapon of the format, and I think that that card is Anti-Spell Fragrance. Obviously, it puts the squeeze on any Pendulum decks, as they really just won't be able to Pendulum summon at all, but with the Trevor plays and the ability to bounce the cards right back to your hand, I mean, you can pretty much just auto win off that play alone. So I feel like Satellar Knights are once again here to stay and a very solid pick. Honorable mentions include Yugioh, Necroz, Ultra Athletes, and Different Dimension Demons. Finally, our number 1, New Monarchs. So I decided that New Monarchs qualified for this list because they are going to be released in this format in a structure deck within a couple of months from now. And I think that anytime you've got a deck that's going to be released in a structure deck, it's almost certainly going to qualify as budget. As far as the deck itself, I mean, it is obscenely powerful. I don't know if you guys have actually played against the deck, but it is consistently dropping 2,800 monsters, sometimes multiple in a turn. And the amount of field presence that the deck can get turn 1 is easily the highest on the list. That's the reason I think that that deck is going to be so powerful and going to see so much play. New Monarchs also have one of the best snowball effects in the game. It's very similar to Prophecy, where maybe they get 1 card up on you and then 2 turns later, you're just completely out of the game. You've got 1 card and your opponent has 6 cards in their hand. I think that the deck just makes advantage so easily, and it is a legitimate threat to any deck in the game, budget or not. So let me know what you guys thought of this list. Were there any decks that you thought should have been on here that I missed? Leave that in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribing makes life happy.